No tensions between the black and Jewish community.
No, not here. Not at all. Not at all. We're getting along very well. And this was like out from nowhere came a shooter from somewhere, and he started to shoot. It was shocked. Everybody was shocked. The community wasn't shocked. The African community wasn't shocked.
David Menzies for the Rebel News here in Jersey City, New Jersey. Now, folks, it was here almost a month ago that a brutal massacre occurred at what was once the JC Kosher supermarket. That building is now boarded up, and it exists as a makeshift shrine to the victims. When all was said and done, 6 people were dead, including the 2 gunmen. The events of the night unfolded when Detective Joseph Seals approached the gunman. He was suspicious of what they were carrying. Detective Seals paid with his life. The gunman then went into the kosher supermarket and started shooting up people that were within it. They were eventually shot dead by law enforcement. They were David N. Anderson, 47, and 50-year-old Francine Graham. Now, at first, this was just being shrugged off as a random, senseless attack, but as people investigated the 2 gunmen, it became clear that perhaps there was something more to this. For example, the 2 gunmen had links to the Black Hebrew Israelites church in Harlem. This particular church has been condemned as a hate group by several authorities, and when we visited there, we tried to reach out for comment. Nobody would talk to us, but what they're about is they believe that blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are the true Jews, and that anyone else proclaiming to be Jewish, well, they are frauds. Also, it should be noted that we reached out to a security expert who believed that the kosher supermarket wasn't the exclusive target of the gunman. Next door, there is a synagogue. It now has a steel door and a no trespassing sign, and to get in, it's for members only, and you have to put in a code number. Also upstairs, there is a Jewish school. There were many kids in the school at the time of the attack. So this brutal massacre could have been even worse had these gunmen got into the synagogue and the Jewish school. In any event, we're going to try to speak to some of the locals to make sense of what happened here. By way of background, the reason the JC Kosher supermarket exists was to cater to the needs of the growing Hasidic Jew community in Jersey City. They began to come here about 3 years ago after allegedly being priced out of their Brooklyn neighborhood. And this neighborhood is predominantly black. Perhaps there are tensions between the black and Jewish community. I don't know, but we're going to speak to some individuals here in Jersey City and find out what's going on. Say we're from Rebel News in Toronto, and we're doing a story on this horrible massacre that happened almost a month ago. Do you have any insight into why this particular kosher supermarket was targeted by the gunman?
Not at all. No? Not at all. I'm just surprised that it really happened, you know what I'm saying? It's a good area, you know. I never known for anything tragic like that to happen in this area.
Not over here, bruh. It may be over in New York, not in New Jersey. We've been living with them for years since they got over here. There's never been an attack. Nobody don't bother them. They don't bother us. We get along perfectly with them.
Basically, I don't know. I really don't understand it because I don't understand what did these people do to other people to create this. Right. But in my behalf, as long as I lived around here, we never had no problems with nobody.
I don't know why. What's the problem with that?
Okay, but you were here the day of the massacre, sir.
Around the corner right there.
Wow. What did you see, sir?
I didn't see nothing. I heard bullets and ran that way.
Right.
That's it. I just heard noise, bro.
Is there any tension between the black community and the Jewish community?
Oh, they speak to you, you speak to them. You know, we never had no problems. You know, You speak at first, they didn't want to speak, but once they started, seeing who speak to them, they spoke back to them. So I never had no problems. I used to live on Bidwell Avenue, right next to a Jewish family, and they knew my kids and everything. And they're very nice people, but I just don't understand why this happened.
Not at all. No, not at all. Matter of fact, I usually go there and buy some meats and stuff out of there.
Is that right?
Yeah.
There's no tensions between the black and Jewish community.
No, not here. Not at all. Not at all.
So this was just a one-off, an anomaly, maybe?
Yeah. I'm out here every day. I'm here every day. There's never been anything with the Jewish community and us blacks around here in this area. Never.
Well, I'm with Harry. He's from Brooklyn. He has ties to the Jersey City Synagogue, and he actually frequently shopped at the Jersey City Kosher supermarket. Harry, in the big picture, in New York and New Jersey, in the last couple of months, there has been a sudden spike in the number of violent anti-Semitic attacks. Do you have any insight as to why that is?
I can't give you any insight on that because as far as of my knowledge, especially here in this community, we never heard of any anti-Semitism attacks. There are two communities living over here together. It's like the American dream. You have the Jewish people from one side, you have the black African American community over here. We are getting along very, very well, actually. Everybody will greet you on the street, everybody will say hello, and it's just perfect.
Now that is interesting, Harry, because the Hasidic Jewish community in Jersey City, it's relatively new. Hasidic Jewish families started to come over here from Brooklyn, about 100 families going back just 3 years ago. And you're saying there's been no tension between the Jewish community and the black community here in Jersey City?
Correct, not at all. We actually have a lot of similarities between these communities because we both survived persecution during the previous generations. We have a history from where we come from, and they have their history from where they come from, and we understand each other. And we know that, and we are explaining it for the kids, and they're explaining it for the kids, and everybody knows their history from the other community, so that makes us, it's the fabric, it's a fabric from one community actually together, and we're getting along very well. And this was like out from nowhere came a shooter from somewhere, and he started to shoot. It was shocked. Everybody was shocked. The community wasn't shocked. The African community wasn't shocked. The politicians, everybody condemned it. It's condemned from the mayor, from the attorney general. Everybody that took very serious steps trying to avoid it in the future. But I should say there is a rise in anti-Semitism in Jersey City. No, not at all.
Well, and Harry, I understand you told me earlier that you had somewhat of a personal connection with one of the victims of the kosher supermarket.
Yes, actually, because I'm visiting the synagogue very often. So I'm coming into this is the only kosher shop here in this area now. So I very often come in to shop in the store, and I was greeted by Mrs. Ferenc. She was the owner of the store and the wife of the owner, and by her special husband she left behind. And she actually cooked farina. She prepared kugel, some kosher food, what you only can get here in Jersey City. She was the only one who's provided this for this community. And everybody was so thankful for her, for her service, what she's doing. And she was a very special figure in this community because she was from the first few who came out from Brooklyn to come and live here. And unfortunately it happened what it happened. It's very, very sad. It was a very, very sad day. And we are still in grief, I will tell you.
Oh, I can understand. It's a horrible thing that happened on December 10th. I'm wondering, Harry, do you think, we've reached out to security experts and they said that they feel the death toll could have been far greater, that one of the main targets was the Jewish school. There were 40 Jewish kids at the school that night. Maybe that was the intended target of the gunman, in which case this might have been an even more grotesque massacre.
I can't even talk about it because I can't think about it. I can't register my mind, and I can't go into the mind of this ridiculous person who came in with machine gun, and he actually tried to access the synagogue. I don't want to think what would happen if he did. And thanks God, he didn't have the access. And thanks God, there were very few people in the store at this moment, because a lot of times when I was here, there was like 10, 15 people in the store easily, and shoppers in front of the store just getting along and talking to each other. But thanks God, this wasn't the case. But still, it happened what it happened. 3 people were killed inside the store. And thanks to the quick and fast response from the police department, they actually arrived in seconds, I would say. They actually arrived in seconds, and they risked their lives, and they were so brave, and we admired it so much. And they actually, I would say, I give them the credit. They saved the lives from so many kids and so many people of the community over here. We still feel, even with the spike with anti-Semitism attacks, I don't know why, I'm walking on the streets, I feel safe. Especially recently, because the authorities, they look over here. You have the police department all over. They are securing our synagogues and they're making sure that everything is okay. So I wouldn't share with our kids anything. I don't want to scare them. I want to live the American dream safely and securely. I'm walking on the streets like I'm like everybody else. I'm proud what I am. I'm proud how I look, and gladly I can say everybody respects it.
Hey folks, my cameraman Efren and I came down to the New York City area for 4 days to delve into why there's been a sudden rash of violent anti-Semitic acts in the New York, New Jersey area. If you want to see those reports, please go to rebelinvestigates.com. And if you're able to, please chip in $1 or $3 for our expenses. We travel very modestly. We're not part of Justin Trudeau's media state-sponsored stenographers that get government handouts. So if you can indeed make a contribution, we would greatly appreciate it.